rather us not think about it's this thing that you do, and more that it's a kind of dimensionality that we can bring about at any moment that it might be called for, either by the purpose of the occasion or just by what arises in a given moment. So, like for instance, I might be working with a leadership team, and we may or may not call whatever it is we're doing transformational learning or vertical learning, but there may be a moment when somebody brings something up and there's a certain quality of emotional trigger to that. And I would want to, sort of depending on what's going on, but I might want to address that emotional trigger. I might want to speak to that. I may not want to just sweep that under the rug. Everyone following me? So I might want to, so in that moment, I would sort of dip down into a moment of vertical facilitation, right? And I might say in that moment, so I want to check something with you, Ray, right? So you said this thing that you said, but I sensed there's something kind of like there was an emotional charge to that. And I wonder if we could speak a little bit about that. Would that be okay? And then can you see, just asking that question, just saying what I said, even if he says or she says, no, that's not okay. Can you see that I've opened the lid on something that it might otherwise often be hidden with this group? So that would be an example of this may or may not be a full-fledged occasion for, quote, vertical facilitation, but a moment arises uh, in which a moment of vertical facilitation is maybe appropriate.
Can I check something because it resonated also very much with kind of situations I already find myself in at the moment. So where also how you describe it, I very much resonate with this picture of it being another layer that kind of is coming in.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I find it quite challenging because it brings, or at least how I experience it, is it brings kind of a double purpose, so to speak, in. So kind of there's on the one hand the purpose that's sort of at hand at the moment in the team or organization or the person I'm in. I don't know, clarifying something, setting some goals, discussing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this other layer of, and it's good to bring in maybe more awareness about how the culture is working here or how we are interacting with each other. So and for both, I guess I have to I want to kind of design an alliance to have both of that
Yes.
available.
Yes. Yes.
And at the moment I'm doing it, it also feels like kind of needing it to set a clearer frame of maybe if it's already very well established, we can go ahead, as you maybe mentioned, just saying like, hey, you said this and sounds to me like something. But in a group that's not so used to it, I don't know, I have this idea of, okay, the container needs to be built like, okay,
That's
wait a
right.
minute. Just a second ago, where we were in a normal team situation and I'm just, very lightly supporting you in discussing whatever topic is there. Now, I think it's a great opportunity to dive deeper. Is everyone on board to maybe take like 50 minutes to explore this a little bit because I feel something's in there for the whole team?
Yeah.
Something like this.
Right.
And I don't know if that resonates with you as well.
So here's the thing about this, that um, a lot of this rides on our own ability to be comfortable with discomfort. So to the degree that we have a kind of abstract concern about, wow, can I really lead this group in this direction, then we're not going to be able to see one way or the other. We're not going to be able to really see whether or not this group is ready for something, quote unquote, ready, right? So it's, and what I often find is that, especially people who work with leadership teams, is that they can be quite gun shy. You know that term, gun shy? They can be quite hesitant. And that's why, like in the deep dive, so much of the deep dive is about personal development, is about developing our own capacity to be present with what is, as opposed to being present with my own reactions or my own concerns, right? Or to be aware of my reactions and to be aware of my concerns as belonging to me, not belonging out. They may or may not have anything to do with what's going on out there. So a lot of this work has to do with our own inner work, our own ability to differentiate what's going on here versus what's going on out there. Now, the difficulty in this is that oftentimes what's going on in here looks like it's going on out there. When I'm able to own my own projections and my own interpretations, I can be clearer about, aligning with a group, like what is the purpose of what we're doing? And the purpose might be, it's just like a general planning meeting, for instance. But as we know, general planning meetings are not always so simple, are they? They're not always so straightforward. Things come up. And so I'm going to want to, I'm going to want to have permission to give feedback on what I'm observing that might be getting in the way of this group being able to conduct an effective planning meeting. Like, so for instance, I might say, I'm noticing that person A said this, person B said this other thing without in any way relating to what person A said. And I'm wondering what you want to do about that. I might pose that to the group. So that's very germane to their effectiveness in this planning meeting, right? And it's not something, so part of the designed alliance for a planning meeting, if I'm going to work with a group, is going to be, so my commitment as the facilitator here, or leading this session, or however I'm defining myself, is I'm committed that this be really effective for you, that you're actually able to complete what it is you're here to do. And can I have your permission if from time to time that means I need to actually give some feedback on what I'm observing? And that would be your designed alliance at the very beginning. Notice I'm not talking about going into deep emotional issues or deep, even, developmental issues. So vertical facilitation has this kind of developmental language, but it's not necessarily developmental, although it ultimately is. But it doesn't necessarily have to come across as an overt developmental intervention, right? Oh, your achiever action logic is really showing up there, buddy. You better kind of get with the program, right? It's not like that at all. It's much more nuanced and subtle. Part, whether or not it leads to a deeper conversation, if I can be really neutral about that, and it may or may not it may or may not go where I think it needs to go. But I'm going to want it to go where they need it to go. And sometimes where they need it to go might require some moments of discomfort. And if I can stand in that discomfort, if I can hold the discomfort of the system myself, and allow myself to be fully present to that, then the things that I say, or the questions I ask, or the things that I don't say, the silences that I bring about, will be more potentially useful.
Yeah, and like you said, it's also understanding there are times that they're not going to go there, they don't want to go there, and that's okay.
Right, that's right.
May not be the time, may not be the place.
Yeah, right.
Not everything, yeah.
Yeah, I can't insist on anything except for what we've agreed to. But if there is something that we agreed to, I have to be prepared to insist on that. So for instance, we agreed to have cameras on. By the way, this is not anything about you, Nice, so don't worry about it. Nice is, by the way, those of you who joined a little bit after we started, Nice is having some trouble with his camera and stuff. Okay, so great. Yeah, so I might say, we had a certain agreement, and in order for us to do the work that we're committed to doing, we need to have cameras on. And at this point, I'm not sure what we're going to do about that, but we need to have a conversation to find out what needs to happen. For instance,